Welcome to Communicate with Power. I'm Barry McLaughlin. I'm
I'm
here
Laura Peck.
with Laura Peck. And this is our seventh episode, Laura, of Communicate with Power. And we actually do have a lot of fun with it. At least I do. I don't know if you do, but what do you think?
Every day is fun with you,
Oh
Barry.
my God, yeah. Okay. Enough of the lies. Let's get to the truth. Yeah, so today it's Thanksgiving weekend. And actually, we deliberately did this outside because it's still warm enough to do this outside. And in November, I'm going to be here, and Laura will probably be in the house by then, but we're going to do this as long as we can outside. And it is unusual here in Ottawa, Canada, the true north, strong and free, where you can actually still sit out. And it is well into October now. So we're very thrilled with that. Today, Laura, I thought we'd keep it pretty open as to what you want to bring up. It's been a very busy week. Maybe you want to share what we've been doing this past week.
Well, this was a big week for us because we did a 3-day course. It was the second time we had done it on mis and disinformation. And what struck me is even after all these years of doing all the courses that we are doing, we put a tremendous amount of time into research, preparation, uh, delving deeply into what do we do, what do we say when there's misinformation about us as people or the institutions that we work for. And now we know that it's coming out like Niagara Falls in
Yeah,
terms of the
yeah.
amount of misinformation about people. So, Barry, just
Well,
start off telling us. You always make it look easy, and it's not.
well,
It's
I mean, it is sort of our bailiwick, and yes, you are right, Laura. We put a lot of preparation in. The full title, by the way, and what our angle on this heavily was is risk and crisis communications in an age of disinformation. So we heavily focused on how disinformation impacts issues of risk. Those are issues that affect life, health, safety, the environment, and a crisis, whether it's a personal reputation crisis, whether it's an organizational crisis, in which the credibility, brand, and values of the organization are at stake. And we are there because we're practitioners. We've done this for decades, and we shared with them some of the experiences we've had and what are the lessons learned out of that. You always have to point to all the great successes, of course, but you also have to say, this didn't work, and here's why. And I think students seem to really react well to that because, get up there boasting about all the great success, but really it's like, what did you learn out of everything? You can actually learn the wrong lessons out of success as well as failure. So that was part of it as well. Um, and we were doing that with our colleague Jennifer Irish at the University of Ottawa, the Professional Development Institute. And we were able to put together a 2.5-day course in which we're giving a lot of exercises, engaging. We did a town hall exercise, we did a news conference, we did a number of different kinds of exercises to engage. Because I have to say, one thing that we have felt very strongly about in our own, you're of the two of us, you're the one that actually has the qualification of being a teacher, having had a Bachelor of Education. I was just a wannabe all those years.
Your father was a teacher in
He was
Ireland.
a headmaster. Yeah. And actually, it is probably my blood, but we really do believe in engagement. Of course, you could lecture for days on end, but really, that's you have to do a bit of that. But I think student participants, and these were people in the public service of Canada, really do learn very, very well. They clicked right in. They were a great group by engaging in not only the subject matter but in the exercise. So I had to say very, very positively evaluated, very positively appreciated. And we actually said back to them, we really did appreciate this group.
We also had people in the room who were from the Cayman Islands.
Mm.
And by enormous coincidence, we had worked doing crisis communications in Trinidad, Jamaica, Bermuda. We had done it in those countries. So
Bahamas.
we send them a pre-seminar questionnaire so we know a little bit about them. And so we tailor all of our cases, all of our anecdotes, all towards things that are relatable to them and their workplace.
Yeah.
And now they also want to come up with some kind of a strategy for their in the private sector or in the public sector for their organization, so we can give them sort of a chart, a graph, whatever you want to call it, that makes it easier for them to be able to share among their workforce. What do we do? What do we say in times of misinformation or disinformation?
Yeah, and there's no question that the world that we're in, as you see with AI and other technologies and algorithms, that people are being flooded now with fake videos. They're flooded with fake posts. They look real, feel real, seem real, and tons of people believe them. This is a problem when you're trying to communicate a sensitive issue like risk. The zone is flooded with constant falsehoods. And I think there's one point to make, we would make it in the course, but I think it's important to stress that here. Misinformation can just be, I was misinformed, that, oh, I heard that and I thought it was true. But disinformation is a deliberate agenda at play, deliberately distorting for a bigger cause, a bigger goal. That's heavily political. Um, and there are other motives behind it. We're not here to judge the motive, just here to say you really have to understand what that environment is, learn how to detect and decode. Uh, Go for the truth. Do your homework. Don't automatically believe everything you read or see or hear. And I think it sounds basic, but that's a core element of it. A couple of quick things people have asked us. What are the core kinds of messages you would give in communicating? Let's take a crisis as the one. So if you're dealing with a crisis in which um, it's really a threat to the brand, the values, the credibility of an organization. And it could just be an allegation. We've walked into the room to help people in crisis, and they'll say, this isn't a crisis because it's not even true. I'm going, oh, so you think it actually has to be true to be a crisis? Okay, all right. Well, it can be false, but a believable falsehood, meaning that a lot of people out there actually believe it and it is hurting you, your leadership, your organization. So you have to get them to own that this is actually a crisis which has to be resolved. And by the way, we're big on let's resolve it rapidly. You drag out a crisis, you go on and on. And by the way, there's lots of crisis management organizations that they bill in the big six figures. It takes weeks on end, and even then, to try to resolve the crisis. We're big on by the end of today, as we get in that elevator, I would like to see this resolved. Because every day that your reputation is being damaged is a harder day to recover. So we're going to move rapidly. And we gave them exact examples of, once we figure out what is the what are the core truth of this, what is the key message, what action are we taking. Don't just go and say we didn't do it. That's nothing. What are you doing as a result? Are you calling? Are you launching an investigation? Are you offering your resignation? What are you doing that will turn the corner on this entire crisis, on this issue? And I can tell you one other major thing that came out in the course, actually, they were quite intrigued by that, was saying, look, even if you know what the solution is, if you push that on the client, you're already in trouble, right? So many times we've had to, turn to the client and give the client the clear options. Either come out now and tell everybody your bad news, or wait till it comes out in the media or in social media, and then you're shut out of it. You're reacting. You never get in the driver's seat of which one of those two. Well, usually they choose the one that they will tell people what happened and why it happened and what they're doing about it. So but I've learned, for many years of doing it, do not push the solution on the client. That was a major takeaway, I think, from the course.
There are some people also, they would rather endure years of this problem that had happened to them years ago because they just cannot reconcile themselves to that resolution to get something done quickly. So we always say to people, what would you rather? A bad day or a bad year? And there are some people who prefer a bad year. And the great thing about being in this big business for many decades, I get the opportunity to go back and ask people, are you okay with the way things turned out? And some people, they would prefer that the problem goes on for years. So they live in it for many,
Well,
many.
because denial sometimes is to them on a personal level less painful than admitting I made a mistake. So, if you have a client that is refusing to admit their role, their share, their responsibility in it, I would actually shake hands. I've done it. I gave them the anecdote. I stood up. I thanked the person very much for a great meeting. I shook hands and we left.
Yeah.
We left because I knew we have somebody that is in denial about the problem, really refuses to take action, isn't directly asking for help anyway. I'm not going to push our solution on them. I shook hands very respectfully. We're still very friendly with this leader somewhere in Canada. And we do not engage the topic because they were determined they were going to, they were going to circle the drain. And I guess, see, once you latch onto that, you're circling the drain with your client. You're both going down. And so if they don't really, if they're not seized by the scope, nature, and gravity of the crisis, of the problem, then you need to, once you've given your best options to them, then you may as well stand up, shake hands, and leave because you're not going to be able to help them anyway.
And extraordinary things happen. Like even this summer, we were at a concert, and this guy comes over and says, "You guys helped us with an issue, a huge, huge, devastating issue. It was beyond all comprehension that it
Which
could."
devastating issue was that?
So many.
Okay.
I don't want to
I don't
go
remember
in.
that one, but anyway, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Just as well.
Okay, the guy came up in Nova Scotia. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So
And
listen,
anyway, my point is
yeah,
that life comes full circle,
yeah,
even that work circle. And he came over and
yeah,
he said, like, it was so devastating what happened, but because of your strategy at the time, it was so hard, so hard. And our hearts were with those
yeah.
people, by the way. However, they have come out the other side, and so nothing's perfect, but they have been the resilience to
Yeah.
to come out the other side.
Another aspect of all of this is risk and risk issues. And you're seeing that play out with, we didn't know that, Tylenol apparently causes autism. Well, who knew? Thank gosh we have a medical doctor in the White House with full knowledge, be able to share with us that key insight that we had just not known in the world. So that was great. I mean, to be able to share that knowledge. And so, you can imagine if you're Johnson and Johnson, Tylenol, they're familiar with crises from the past. Okay, the famous, zapping in and contaminating Tylenol capsules about 40 years ago. It became really a case study. How to. They swept everything off the shelves. They wrote it down. They said the quality and purity of our products is essential to us, to our trust of our customers, and we're writing that down because even a question being raised is one too many. So we did that with a client on another food-related allegation taken hold, hugely political. We did advise them, and we shared this anecdote. We advised them to take the product off the shelf. Nobody got sick and nobody died from it, but the political winds were so strong that we had suggested that they write it down before the government forces you to take them off the shelves. So he actually agreed with us. He's the American who came up to be the president of this company, but they had the ultimate owner in the United States who declined to do that, who said, no, we're going to keep it up there because it's Canada and it's Pennsylvania and Ohio combined in terms of markets. So we're not too worried about that. Well, so sure enough, guess what? 3 days later, government forces them to take it off the shelf. You get no you get no positives for having taken the right action. Even if you believe there's nothing wrong with your product, you are going to stand behind your product and take the hit in order to restore the trust of the public. And that's one of the example of we didn't succeed. We tried our best. Even our Canadian client tried his best. But ultimately, when you get multinational corporations, the ultimate decider won't necessarily be in the country you're even in. So I want to raise that as you can do your best as a consultant. What, by the way, you can be an internal consultant. You can work for a corporation or government department. There's a lot of them there. Big thing happens. Here's the two questions you get asked in crisis communications. What do we do? What do we say? Those are the two things. And by the way, can you tell us like right now? So you have to be able to execute very, very quickly That's on a crisis, but even on a risk, which is a longer term issue of with vaccines and so on, climate change, like an example of a risk issue. Those are long term risks. But the key difference between risk and crisis is in risk, you've got to engage people. They've got to be part of the process. Not, I've just announced that this is no good. I just announced you have to wear this. I just announced you're doing that, rather than bringing them along, working with community by community, and yes, online, very, very critically important. You can engage people online to build understanding and consensus, acceptance of key principles, leading to agreement in principle, leading to commitment, leading to action. We have a tool called the persuasion ladder, and it's to move them up that ladder so they're making the decision. We still have a long way to go in the world, really, to get people to get strategies that will engage people far more than just pronouncing. And hopefully some lessons are learned out of that.
So this past week we did these in-person courses, which were great. Next week we're going to do virtual training. Barry, did you want to talk a little bit about the difference between we've never met this person in person, we're just going
Oh,
to
yeah.
do this virtually?
Well, we've done quite a bit of
We
virtual
have.
coaching, and a lot of the things we're talking about here, whether you're in the room or not, hopefully that's there. But obviously, you want that person to be engaging. We did a 7.5 hour seminar on, it was hybrid at Cape Breton University, called Risk and Crisis. It was
In
called getting, no,
times
it was
of
called, sorry, it was
in
called
times
getting.
of uncertainty.
Yeah, that's the second half. The first half is getting your message across in an age of uncertainty. Yes, and we actually were. It was hybrid, and I enjoyed that. I think they enjoyed it too. So you don't necessarily lose anything with the hybrid nature. You have to reorganize how you do simulations and so on, whether it's speeches, presentations, media interviews, news conferences, etc., or just Facebook posts, etc., etc. So uh, I
118 people.
registered for that. Yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah,
and some people had the camera off all day long.
yeah,
So you have no idea whatsoever. Are
yeah.
they getting anything out of this? Are they interactive? Are they
Yeah.
engaged or whatever? I don't know. They could have been at the beach for all I know.
Well, that's fine, I guess. But so the bottom line is that in these hybrid learning, this is the world. I mean, I actually think in a lot of what universities are in big trouble, right? Oh my God! I remember at a very major uh, meeting at Carleton University, may as well say it, decades ago, the dean, the founding dean of the whole thing. We're going to get this new building. We're going to get this building. I said, you know what? I'm kind of having a bit of a problem with it. What do you mean? I said, well, spending a ton of money on these buildings, but the world will gradually be going virtual. The world will gradually be more and more doing these. And here you are building these buildings, which ultimately could become shells sitting out there, empty shells. It could be Beijing after they built all these empty towers. But not that I was any guru of the future. It was just I remember this technology guy. I said to him, "Tell me the future," and he goes, "Barry, here's the future." And he holds up his thing and he said, "Everything will be on there. Everything." He said this about the year 2000, and sadly he's passed away. But I've always remembered that he knew this is where we're going. I'm raising this because this is the world. These universities and colleges that are in big trouble. I want to know, are they really reaching out? Like, if somebody was in the Philippines, why can't they take your course? Yes, live. We do ours every year at the Shannon School of Business, and they are hybrid. And people are from China. I think it's like 2 in the morning. They click on to engage in the seminar. It means something to them. So I never quite get, it's a heavy bias of, I don't mean to pick on one university. They're all like this. It's a heavy bias towards in person. They measure everything by that. I'm going, that's going to keep going down, especially as we see immigration, housing problems everywhere. That remember that the world is learning very differently now. And if you've got quality teaching, if you have quality courses, I don't care if they're
Quality tech.
in a houseboat somewhere down in the Caribbean, good. They could do it there. So I'm just saying that headspace is gradually changing, but you can tell even here in Canada, not enough, and it's not fast enough. So I'm just saying that we need to make sure that we change with the learners out there. People want the learning. In North America, there's still very strong brands of universities, north and south of the 49th parallel. And there's no reason why somebody in another country altogether would not want to be part of it. In fact, they do want to be part of that. So I'm just saying that's my little rant on
I
that,
have
but I think
another
it's
question
important.
for you because before I came on to do this, I had these interesting conversations with neighbors, and Barry Weiss was at one time. She had some friction at the New York
Yeah.
Times.
Yeah.
It was a combination of she felt bullied, she felt canceled, she left New York Times, and now she sold her company for she and her partner and her sister started their own news outlet. They sold it for $150 million. And Barry Weiss, another Barry,
Spelt wrong.
she she is now going to head up CBC News.
CBS News.
CBS, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
If only CBC. No,
Yeah.
CBS News. Yeah, she's the new executive producer. And, is that part of the deal with Paramount? And, we'll set aside that. We're not there to judge that. But, clearly that's a signal that it's going to go in somewhat of a different direction, which is a whole other subject matter, which is of concern. We all went through the Stephen Colbert thing, we went through the Jimmy Kimmel thing. I say we, but the world really did get engaged in that to a great extent. And I guess I'm coming back to freedom of speech on these things. Is freedom limitless? Can you say anything? No. There are limits of law. There are limits of libel that you have to. There are certain invisible guardrails not to cross. I didn't have any problem with what Jimmy Kimmel said. I think he got near the hot stove and put his finger on it. And even though he wasn't really at all criticizing um, uh, Charlie Kirk, but excuse me, but he did touch the stove, and you could see, wow, the huge reaction to it all. So I guess I would say that when we talk about freedom, that the old in my one law 101 course, one of the first things you learn is when you say about freedom and no limits to freedom, you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater, and you can't, and you will be
And
arrested.
speaking of a theater, this week I watched with a lot of political people in Ottawa. That's not hard to find. You can
Yeah,
fill a room
pretty fast.
anytime. Anyway, these are my
Yeah.
people. And we watched All the President's Men. Wow. That Robert Redford, Dustin Hoffman film.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great picture
Yeah.
that is.
But you actually met the Ben
I
Bradley. I
did.
was with you, but he was really talking to you. So I kind of uncharacteristically kept my mouth shut. But he was quite, even in his, I think it was his final year,
Oh
maybe,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And he was sharp as a tack. And the fact that we were Canadians really was an interest of his. Like he seemed to be genuinely interested in that, whereas
Yeah.
in Washington. And,
But
and,
even more important, I met Kay Graham.
oh,
And
yeah.
in the movie, they refer to her, but she's not actually
The
in it.
publisher of the Washington Post.
And
Absolutely.
years ago, it was my great honor to meet her.
Yeah.
And when I told her, she asked me what I did for a living and where I was from. So when she found out that I was a media consultant
Yeah.
from Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
she told me, now this is a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
but she told me that she was very concerned about newspapers because the amount of paper that she was buying from Nova
Oh, yeah.
Scotia had gone down significantly.
Yeah.
So if you're not using newspaper, you're
Yeah.
not selling as many newspapers.
Duh.
And so that was when she was really ahead of her
But did
time.
she really know? Did anybody really know
At that
how the
time,
online digital world would take hold, swamp it out? There's only one newspaper right now that appears to have a large newspaper that appears to have jumped that gap, and that is the New York Times.
That's
They have
right.
a very high percentage
They
are
knew how to put up a paywall.
right, but the digital subscription, you got to you give a couple of things free. I remember you used to get 10 articles, or you'd count those articles. But really, they are making more money, I believe, from the digital online than the actual newspaper. But I just spent, even in Canada, like you have to watch this. I wanted to get an article in the Globe and Mail, the Saturday Globe and Mail, a couple weeks ago, and $9.95 to get the Saturday Globe and Mail, of which I only really wanted one article. Which, and of course, when you go online, you can get, for $1.50, you can get, X weeks worth of the newspapers. So it's kind of like they're already pricing themselves out of the market. The Globe Mail actually is one of the Canadian success stories so far, anyway, in that they have crossed the divide to a great extent. More and more people are doing it online. National Post, most people have some kind of a digital subscription with the National Post. And all the newspapers, Post Media Network, our chain are really moving into that area quite well, but we still have big gaps here. And I'm a little worried that people aren't getting any information, that they haven't, their algorithms don't tell them this is what they
Mm.
want to see. And you end up with a lot of people that look at you puzzled, like they never heard of that because it's not in their algorithm. That worries me. So I think we have to keep beating the drum for encouraging, yes, at the youngest of ages, to read, to, yes, stuff that you otherwise wouldn't naturally be drawn to. And I think that it's important that start early so it becomes a habit. That's my
Yeah,
take on that.
and just to follow up, there was an entire movie about Kay Graham called The Post.
Right.
Meryl Streep was in
It's really
it.
good.
So it seems to be an overcorrection for not having her in the first
Oh,
movie,
that's
but
interesting. Yeah.
nevertheless, both are fantastic. I
Yeah.
highly recommend them if you are interested in that. And I'm fascinated by women's careers also, and she only really started hers. It was her family
Yeah.
newspaper, but she actually didn't work in it until much later on in life.
Yeah.
And she was amazing to meet. It
Yeah.
was my honor to
Yeah.
meet her. Anyway, all
This
this
is
to say,
this is cranberry juice. I deliberately have it here because I always have cranberry juice on Thanksgiving weekend. We wish all of you happy Thanksgiving.
happy
A lot to be
Thanksgiving.
thankful for in life, and we keep on hoping that the next day will be better and better. So this is best to you. Keep subscribing. Click subscribe. Share it with your friends. We'd love to meet them too. So thank you so much, everybody.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.